I can't even say this one with a straight face. I really can't. My mother-in-law asked my husband to subscribe to her OF to support her. And if you don't know what OF is, it's a website, a page where you can subscribe for adult pornographic things. This story is fresh out of the womb, okay? It was April 29th, 2025 that it was first posted. Throwaway accounts for obvious reasons. Yeah. My mother-in-law, 40 female, has always been very open about sex. When I first met my husband, she managed a sex toy store. About a year ago, she started working towards a degree in sexual health and wellness. She nude models for a local artist, and around a month ago, she started an OF account. Sex and an openness about it has always been an extraordinarily normal thing for her. I have absolutely nothing against her working in the sex industry. That is her forte, and I am happy that she's doing well and enjoying what she does. However, I've had some slight concerns about it before, not specifically her working in this industry or her openness in general, more so how open she is, especially with her own kids. For example, my husband and I started dating in high school when she was managing the sex store. When she would come home from work, she would stop into my husband's, boyfriend at the time, room and hand us sample sizes of different gels and sensation creams, saying, "I thought you guys might want to try some of these." To your child in high school? I would probably faint if one of my parents did that when I was in high school. It always made us both pretty uncomfortable, and it was extremely awkward to have my boyfriend's mom hand me things to try sexually with her son. But nonetheless, the most conversation that my husband and I ever had about it back then was about how awkward it was. Awkward and uncomfortable enough that we never actually used those things. They just piled up on a shelf by his bed. Another time, while we were dating, fresh out of high school, we were hanging out with his sisters. His mom was still working at that toy shop. Once in a while, she would come home with silly toys, and on this night, she walked in with a 1-foot-long, glittery toy, we will call it. She playfully whipped it around towards us like a sword. His sisters screamed and ran from her, and for a while, we all laughed and had fun about it, snatching it from one another and chasing each other around with the glitter schlog. Eventually, my husband's sister, who was 17 at the time, said something like, "Mom, you better not have brought that home to use. That's crazy." My husband chimed off with an ew, saying he didn't need to think about that. And his mom laughed and replied with, "Oh no, that's silicone. You know the toys I use are glass." Oh my God. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. Again, my husband made a weird face, but didn't say anything. When we got to his room, I said that it was weird that his mom talked about that to her children, about what she uses and to get her rocks off. And he told me that she has always been way too open about things that none of them wanted to know, but that she has always been this way, so he has just gotten used to it and just started tuning it out. As time went on, I got used to the openness, and it was just that, being too open about personal stuff within conversation. However, yesterday, the openness went too far. My husband and I were sitting in our living room watching TV. My husband got a text from his mom and opened it and had a visceral reaction. He tossed his phone down, stood up, walked away from it with his hands over his face while saying things like, "Oh my God," and "holy crap" under his breath. Naturally, I thought someone had died, so I started frantically asking him what's wrong. All he said was that he didn't even want to open his phone again. I asked again what was wrong, and he told me that his mom just sent him pictures. Oh my God, no. What am I about to read? I was confused, but concern started to grow. I asked what he meant by pictures, and he hesitated before saying, I don't want to ask you to look, but I can't open it back up to delete it myself, so I need you to. My stomach dropped. I opened his phone to see what was there, and I immediately felt nauseous. There was a text that read, quote, "Hey, I know you've always supported me, and I wanted to see if you would be willing to subscribe to my OF so that I can get my numbers up while I'm still getting started. Of course, I don't expect or want you looking through it, but the more subscriber numbers I have, the more engagement I can get. I was also wondering if you would be willing to share my link to some of your friends at work. Husband is in a male-dominated blue-collar job. I feel sick. The pics I included, oh my God, no. The pics I included are to send them with the link, but don't tell them I'm your mom." I actually feel nauseous myself. And under it were the pictures. There were 3 nude photos of his mother. And not just like naked in the mirror or pics of yabos kind of photos. They were full-on pornographic photos. Oh my God, I can't read those. Oh my God. We're gonna use some codes here. This is rated R. If you're under that, go away. You shouldn't be here. One photo was her tied up in BDSM gear. The next one, a picture of, you know the song, "Face down, up, that's the way we that." And one of her, I cannot read that. Oh my God. One of her with her legs spread, and a toy is involved, and that's all I'm gonna say. My blood was boiling. I deleted what she'd sent, and my husband and I were both silent for a moment. Like, this isn't even funny though. I didn't know what else to say or do, so I broke the silence by asking, "What now?" My husband told me to block his mom on his phone, so I did. I asked if this was something his mom has done before, and he said no. He told me that in the past, she had asked if he wanted to see pictures of the drawings that she posed for. He always felt a bit guilty saying no, so he simply didn't respond when she would ask, and she never sent it. Then my husband went pale and started walking to the bathroom saying he felt sick. While he was in the bathroom, I blocked his mom on my phone as well and her social media. When my husband came back out of the bathroom, he called his sister. He asked her if she was with their mom, and when she said no, he explained to her what all had just gone down. His sister was also speechless. Then he asked her not to say anything to other family members right now and explained that neither he or I would be in contact with their mom for a while. He also told her that anytime we were home for a visit, he would let his sisters know so that he could plan to see them, but that his mom would not be included in those plans from here on out. My mother-in-law quickly realized that she was blocked on everything by the both of us, and by that night, she had the whole family blowing up our phones asking why. The fact that she has to ask why is insane. The constant messages haven't stopped, and so far we've just muted our phones as we don't even know what to say. How do you explain that your mother sent you homemade corn? And then also asked you to subscribe to it and share it with your coworkers. Let's not forget that part. This is actually a very interesting conversation. I know we're gonna have to censor ourselves in the comments, but this is very common. This industry, especially nowadays with OF, and there are moms out there who do that. There's moms, there could possibly be dads, I don't know. I've seen a lot of moms talk about it on social media. They're very proud to be a mom and to be working in that industry. Do I think they're all sending the links to their children and the photos? Probably not. I would hope not. But it is very oddly common. Interested on all of your thoughts out there. Respectfully, let's keep it respectful. We do have an update that came the next day. Many of you asked for an update, so here's a small one for now. When my husband got home from work today, he did have me recover the messages for evidence should it be needed. I screenshotted the message with timestamps and each of the photos. In the photos, I scribbled over her not so private areas as well. After that, I sent the messages to my phone and once again deleted the messages from his phone, both in his mother's texts and mine her husband's requests. This was something that several people suggested in the comments of my previous post, and believe me, we were on the same page before I even read them. I agree with this, because there could be more to this story here. My husband and I are also regulars in therapy, both individual and couple counseling. When we got married, we agreed that doing counseling from the get-go was a good idea. Not because we have problems in our marriage, but it gives us the tools to confront issues in the future and keeps us on the same page 100% of the time. That being said, I asked my husband if he had ever mentioned his mother's sexualness in his own therapy. And he said no. Since it is how she's always been raised, he saw it as mostly normal. I suggested that this should most definitely be brought up in the next session, and he agreed. I also asked if there was anything that has happened that was a bit overboard in the past. Outside of conversation, he said that his mother would often come home from work with new lingerie and she would put it on and wear it around the house for the rest of the night as if it were regular clothes. Definitely not appropriate and should definitely be worked out in therapy. Just my opinion. When she would do this, he would either just stay in his room or go to a friend's house because it made him uncomfortable. Several people asked why there hasn't been a conversation about her talking about uncomfortable topics. There has been. When my husband and I were dating, both of us minors, she would talk to my husband about our intimacy explicitly. Some of the questions she asked him are if he likes... I can't read any of this on YouTube. When she would ask these things, my husband simply wouldn't answer with more than, I don't know, but eventually he did tell her to stop. He told her that he didn't like to talk about these things with her and that he knew I wouldn't want her talking about those things with her and that her asking this stuff made him extremely uncomfortable. Her response was to get defensive and act as if she had been disrespected. She would say that sex is normal and that she should be able to have those conversations with her son. She even accused him of shaming her sexuality. So he went back to just ignoring the questions altogether. I feel like that would be such an easy excuse for her because that is her career, like even in the health and wellness world, but also in her own way. Some suggested that we have an in-person conversation with her about this happening. Not only do we live far away, but we aren't ready for a conversation about it, and we especially aren't ready to discuss it in person. This happened yesterday afternoon, and it will honestly be a very long time before any sort of communication happens with her at all. I did find out what she had been telling my family. She's telling them that she asked if her son supported her, not if he would subscribe and share her content. That is why the family has been reaching out and asking why we have blocked her for asking that. We will be telling the family exactly what happened, but we aren't quite ready to do so yet, and that will come within the next few days. We are still processing all of what's going on. My husband has a therapy session tomorrow, and we have one together the next day. We will likely wait to talk about this with the family until after our sessions. That way we can get our ducks in a row a bit more, and we are even considering legal action. For those curious, yes. Oh, mother-in-law is young. Oh, I didn't even think she was, to be honest. She had my husband at 16 to 17 and got married very young as well. Very common among my family and in the field of work that he is in. And that field of work is the military. So him sharing his mother's content would heavily affect him. Not just firing, that would give him a SHARP, which is a sexual harassment, assault response and prevention case, and a possible dishonorable discharge, which would make it extremely difficult to go on after the military. That is all I have for an update right now, but trust that there will be another. I'm still trying to process what's going on. But we're hopping on hydration station before we get to the final update of all of this. So just let me know what's in your cup. I'm not even gonna encourage water at this moment. Do whatever you gotta do to get through this. Cheers. We have the final update, which came the next day, which was May 1st, 2025. My husband and I have spoken with therapists about the entire situation, and we have drawn a conclusion to how we will handle things. As advised by our therapist and based on what we planned ourselves, my mother-in-law will be cut off until she does the self-work and is no longer overly sexual towards family. That being said, my husband and I are prepared for her to be cut off permanently. She can do that type of work, but there has to be boundaries with people in your life, especially your children. There has to be. She will likely not attend therapy herself as she sees it as unimportant. I'm not sure if her opinion comes from her visiting a therapist previously, but she does believe that, quote, therapists just tell you everything wrong with yourself and why you need to change. They don't actually try to help your mental health. They just make it worse. I have never had that experience with my therapist, but okay. I'm sure everyone can imagine what has caused her to draw those conclusions. As of now, my husband and I will not be pushing legal action. We've decided that for us at this time, we would prefer to lay down the law in what we feel comfortable with. If that is respected, that is great, and nothing more will come from it on our end. If that isn't respected and there are more attempts to reach us, such as creating accounts, etc., we will most likely seek out a restraining order. I have saved the screenshots from the original issue, so we will have to present that if needed. As a reminder, the husband's side of the family was blowing up our phones asking why we would block mother-in-law. What they didn't know was that she sent photos of herself. We told them we didn't send the photos, of course, but we did describe them. Things were understood quickly and nothing more was said. I don't know if the family has taken it upon themselves to confront mother-in-law about this. If they have, great, she needs it. If they haven't, oh well. Now, from my own perspective, I was raised in a family where everything was very taboo. Sex, sexuality, our bodies, even our periods were difficult to talk about. So much so that when my mom found out I had a crush on a boy when I was 13, I cried and profusely apologized because I thought that I would be in some sort of trouble. When my husband and I were dating, I never knew that his mom was going too far. I thought that this simply was sex positivity. Of course, I had intuition that things went too far at times, like when I questioned the toy conversation, but when the response to my questions was, oh, she's just really open, I chalked it up to that and didn't really question it anymore. My mother-in-law is not this much when it comes to my sister-in-laws. I always assumed it was because they were younger, but the pictures being sent to only my husband really hammered the nail into the, yeah. I can't say that word, but I can't say the word. It starts with an I. Come to find out, mother-in-law also isn't quite as open with sister-in-laws. She's open about her own doings, but doesn't meddle in their own like she did with my husband. I mentioned before that she would question my husband on our intimacy when we were dating. Another phone call with my middle sister-in-law revealed that she's absolutely never done that to the girls. In fact, there have been times where she's overheard my sister-in-law saying something about their boyfriends, and she would say, ugh, lower your voice, I don't want to know. Whereas she would straight up ask my husband those questions. Another common question was, where is father-in-law? To be honest, I didn't even cross my mind. It really should have. He has never been in the picture. My husband's dad left when mother-in-law was pregnant with her youngest daughter. Mother-in-law also doesn't have a father herself because he left when she was a baby. And there aren't a lot of men in the family. And yes, some people got it right. My husband looks exactly like his bio dad. Same build, same type of hair and color, same bone structure, same eye shape, even a very similar birthmark. That fact makes this even more gross altogether. And finally, no, we don't have children. However, I've always had concerns about leaving children alone with her because of her openness. I will know when my future children are ready to know about certain topics. Those conversations will come from my husband and I, and only us. I have always been concerned that mother-in-law would discard our opinions on that and give our future children the birds and the bees talk whenever she felt like it. Unless she cannot fix whatever is wrong in her brain, she will not ever be alone with our kids and even possibly know them. Now, here's a top comment. because apparently someone was like arguing with the OOP. A commenter wrote, the whole thing about being dishonorably discharged from the military just for having an open, sharp case shows OP doesn't know anything about the military. OOP wrote, I never said that he would get in trouble because his mom did this. I said that had he shared those things with his coworkers, he could have gotten in trouble. But his mother asked him to forward those images to his coworker, and his mother is aware that him doing that could get him in trouble. Therefore, his mother is asking him to do something that could get him into trouble. Yes, that is a very extra layer that I really didn't even think about to the whole disturbing request. Now, you guys, I know we're all going to give our opinions in the comments. Let's try to censor them as much as possible, or your comments will be removed from my channel. I've seen people say that they can't even comment on my videos because YouTube is removing them. It's very censored on here, what can I say? But this is probably a good conversation to have about this industry. It's very big right now. It's the world we're living in. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you in the comment section. Stay classy, stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.